Hey. So next weekend, the London GT is running. The London GT, I believe, is part of the larger gaming convention thing in London. So it's not a massive bold action event as such, but it's the size of most bold action events we see around the world at this point. 20-ish players, and I have the lists. Link is in the description for the video, also to the pack or everything. Let's go and see what's happening. I've done a little meta-analysis. So, let me just get that up for you. Here we go. So the meta of the London GT. The pack itself it runs this weekend, 27th, 28th of September. It's 5 games over 2 days. 1250 points. You can use the rulebook, the armies of books, and the PDFs from the nations. Right now there are 18 players signed up, but I believe that as I'm recording this video, the sign up was still open, so possibly there could be more players in the end. Or less, people might get sick. I don't know. So what am I seeing right now? Well, Germany is still the most popular nation in Britain, in the UK. Brits have really gotten ahead. So there are 6 German lists and 5 British lists. The Brits are really getting up there. And there are a couple of builds that people are using with the Brits right now. So one is leaning heavily into regulars, and the other is leaning into veteran infantry. Both of them more or less defined by the infantry in my mind, and it really it's quite different from each other. There are 2 each of the Soviets and the USA, so the USA not as popular as the other armies of books as this point. It's just not. We're not seeing massive American amounts. Even in American tournaments, we are seeing less than I am used to anyways. And then there's 1 each of the Netherlands and the Japanese. Interesting though that the Japanese is still here, and you'll see when I get to my predictions that I don't actually think that this is a bad way to go about Japanese. So we shall see what happens. Now, looking through the order dice, I got the distinct feeling that there are 3 clusters of order dice. The order dice range is between 12 and 27. And there was one cluster that I termed low order dice, which was almost all of it was Death Star builds. Most of it had Death Star tanks, and it had 12 to 14 order dice. So fairly low order dice with heavy focus on heavy units. So that's one cluster. And then we had a middle cluster, which was the biggest cluster, of people who had between 15 and 18 order dice. So this is what I termed the Goldilocks zone. Typically, the lists in that cluster were mixed bag lists with a little bit of everything and some armor. Some of them leaning heavier into armor than others, but it's all a matter of tastes and preferences, I think. And then finally, we had the very high order dice list, 20 to 27. Fewer of these, but almost all of them were leaning into MSU-style multiple small units for their infantry, and then maybe something else to supplement that, to give them the punch in the list. So that is sort of the 3 build philosophies that I'm seeing right now in tournaments. And if I look back over the last couple of tournaments that I've covered, I can see this pattern repeated somewhat. Not just in the UK, but other places as well. It seems like there is this cluster around the low order dice and a cluster around middle order dice, and then some outliers in the high end. Typically, in this one, there's a large cluster of those. The average is 16.7, which is exactly what I would have expected for 1250 points in the UK. It's very similar to what I see in many parts of Europe, including where I am in Denmark. So it's exactly as expected. The meta stats, what are people actually taking? What's the nitty-gritty of the lists? Well, 4 people are taking company commanders, so low, but not as low as I've seen in some other tournaments. The company commander still is a very, very useful, almost overpowered tool, but only if you have the right list to use him in. There are 4 Death Star tanks, and 2 of those are actually in the same list. And when I say Death Star tanks, as usual, I mean 9+ tanks that are, 200+ points. There are 6 observers. 4 of them are air observers. To be fair, 3 of those are in the same list because there's 1 air power list going. But that is a lot of observers from what we're used to. Now, the thing that has gone away more or less is the British double tap observer, where people would take 1 or 2 British observers because that was just so goddamn good. I did it myself, so I'm no better. But that has completely left the meta, right? Now it's 1 observer maybe in most lists, except that 1 air power list. There are a couple of not armored lists that simply brings no armor, although to be fair, one of them does have an armored platoon, but it's all soft-skinned. HMG recce jeeps. So most people are bringing some armor in their lists. There are 3 engineer platoons, and there are also a couple of recce platoons, so these are still being attempted, but very specific builds when people take them. They do so for a reason. They don't just take them because, recce platoons are good. No. They do so when they want something very specific from that platoon, as is the case with the engineer platoons. And most engineer platoons, I have to say now, are German platoons. The German engineer platoon is just better on average. So what you'll typically see is the people who take an engineer platoon will take a platoon commander, 2 units of engineers, possibly with a flamethrower, but sometimes not. And then they'll take flamethrower teams. And if they're German, they'll take Eintos Flammenwerfers, so the one-shot flamethrowers. That's the build. That is it. And some transport to throw those against the enemy. Typically, they'll use the officers to snap to the transport and the content. Sometimes, if you want to have multiple, for instance, one-shot flamethrowers, Eintos. Then you'll have a company commander so that you can snap to all of it in one go. I'm seeing, again, mostly infantry. Go and watch my When Is It Enough video, the upgrade to my infantry video that released a couple of days ago. Mostly still, it's veteran infantry, but not exclusively so. Some people are playing around with inexperienced infantry. Some people are playing around with regular, but mostly in British lists, to be fair. So it's mostly British Guards, regulars. And there's only 1 multi-rocket launcher. The multi-rocket launchers have been nerfed quite extensively here in V3, and they've had their day in the sun, but mostly they've now left the meta. What about list builds? Well, I'm seeing a lot of MSU lists. A lot of lists stacks up their organized by simply bringing multiple small units. 4-man infantry, 5-man infantry, and then as many teams as they can take. AT rifles are very popular. MMG teams, also a thing. Mortar teams, so many mortar teams. So that's the thing, and that's an easier, good way to stack up your guys and at the same time have some different capabilities in your list. The main drawback is, of course, that you become slightly vulnerable to kill points. And then there are two horde lists, one of them British and, one of them veteran British, which is an unusual build, right? And it's not something that we usually see, but there are so many veterans in that list. I believe it's like 60 plus veterans. And one of them is British Guards, so regulars. So the Brits are the new Horde army, apparently. I had not predicted that, but it happened, at least for this tournament. There are 3 gunline lists, or lists that lean into gunline in some respect. Some of them actually bring anti-tank guns as well. We shall see how that goes. Many of them combine their gun lines with camping infantry, so infantry that can sit in the back line and shoot, which is a good combination in my mind. It works. It's because you don't go in the way of your own guns. Your guns can still sit there and go on ambush and be ready to shoot, but your infantry is also doing something, right? It sort of reinforces each other. The main point, of course, being that at some point you're going to have to go up into the center of the table and try to get those objectives. There are 4 lists that are motorized slash mechanized, because there's still some soft-skinned vehicles stuck in there. And way fewer mechanized, like all mechanized lists than I had expected. Like half a year back, I thought that mechanized was the answer to V3. I saw mechanized in almost all lists that did well in tournaments, but not right now. We'll see what happens. And then there's one list, that one Japanese list, who's actually running a 10 tank list, double armor platoon, 10 tanks, all the same. That's insane. It's so cool. It's a good idea. It's one of the things that I early on sort of spotted in V3 is that there's the possibility of running tank building, tank bowling I called it, where you just have so many tanks and then push them towards the enemy, like run them down the field. See if you can connect something, see if you can shoot something, see if you can charge, and just rush. Ball over the enemy. And this list tries to do that, I think. We'll see how it does in this tournament. It's really cool that I'm actually seeing something that, like on a meta level, I predicted a year ago, actually happening now. And we'll see how it does. So what are my predictions for winners? Well, I have 6 people whose lists say that they should perhaps win, and there are 3 of them I would, if I was a betting man, put my money on one of those 3. So we have Alistair Clegg, who's bringing 20 organized Germans with a mechanized MSU, really cool list, high organized count. He's able to maneuver where he needs to go if the terrain is favorable to him. If there's enough of it, he could do really well. If it's too open, he'll get shot to pieces by the gun lines. Then we have Mark, who's bringing 22 organized Germany with barbecue, camping, and armor, and that combination of having a little bit of everything and having a high organized count when you're doing barbecuing, I think that works. So that is a very strong list in my mind. Gary Morgan is one of those 3 that I would always place a little bet on Gary. 16 organized Germany, barbecue, autocannon tanks and MSUs to support that, so his dice count is fairly okay. It's just very meta. It's very, very meta right now, except the inclusion of barbecue, which I know Gary knows how to run, so that is also a pretty safe bet that Gary might do okay. He's not been doing massively okay this past tournament season, but he is a former British national champion, and he's won tournaments. I played against him. Gary knows his stuff. James Stamp, 18 organized Japanese, inexperienced MSU, so the infantry is extremely weak, but he's got a lot of it. And then he runs that double armor list, so 18 order dice and 10 tanks. That is pretty good for just, pushing. And the trick here, I think, is to distract the enemy so much with his tanks that they don't really get to react and to what's really dangerous, his infantry that will move up and take the objectives, right? The tanks will distract you, will kill you, but the infantry is what will win most games. And then we have Paul Wicken's 27 order dice. Paul, what have you done? This is a monster of a list. It's gunline army with MSU and a mix of transport that says to me that Paul knows what he's doing. He wants this sort of transport for that, and so he has a very specific idea for what he wants in his transports. 27 order dice is just exceedingly high. So it'll be interesting to see if he can actually make that work. I think Paul has the skills to do that. Paul is also a player who's won many tournaments, and a player that I admire in many respects. But he often does this where he builds something that's just way out there, and he has a plan with it always, but sometimes it's just for fun. And then finally, Russell Wright, whom I also have to place a little bit of money on. So Gary, Paul, and Russell. If I had to pick out three that I think would potentially win it, it's these three. And Russell is bringing his American airborne cavalry. So it's a thematic list that is built around Vietnam. And he actually has the models for Vietnam, insanely cool. Allow him to play with that. Just looks so cool on the table, with helicopters and stuff. Really, really cool looking army. 20 order dice. He's got 3 air observers and he's got no armor. The main difficulty here, of course, is for him to deal with the enemy's armor, but he has the air power to do it. So if there's not too much flag on the board, or if he can deal with the flag, then I think he has a real shot. And if people don't know how to deal with the air power, then he has a real shot. Because that many air observers that are just bringing down airplanes, each of them can basically kill a tank or a unit twice. So that's really difficult. By the way, little shameless self-commercial, self-plug here. For the members of my channel, there is a video in the backlog where I explain how to beat air power lists, because I played against air power lists, also one that didn't even have 3, but 4 air observers, and I demolished that list in a tournament game. So it can be done. You just need the right tactics and maybe the right build. Anywho, that was it. Thank you, Russell Wright, for sending me the lists, and good luck to everyone going to London this weekend. Cheers.